For years, we begged for Triple H to take over from Vince McMahon. We honestly believed he would turn the company around and deliver the version of WWE we wanted to see, and for a while it looked like he might actually do it. But 2025 was a disaster. In this video, I'm breaking down the biggest problems Triple H needs to fix in 2026 if WWE has any chance of getting back on track. The first problem is how predictable and stale the storytelling has become. The whole creative direction has become predictable as hell. Every week the show feels mechanical, like the company is following a rigid formula rather than reacting to what the audience cares about. Premium live events like WrestlePalooza and the Survivor Series suffered because the outcomes felt obvious. But one of the biggest problems is how many storylines WWE just abandons. Like AJ Styles' cryptic promo that went nowhere, and John Cena's heel turn that was basically just dropped. Alexa Bliss came back and then vanished again for ages. Drew McIntyre's Bloodline Hunter angle that was just forgotten. Waller and Austin Theory's split that went nowhere. R-Truth's Ron Killings persona that lasted 2 weeks. Then you've got the opposite problem, stories that drag on forever. The Judgment Day tension that was teased for years. The Bloodline and Samoan family storylines that are never ending. And then you've got the title matches that get set up in the laziest way possible. Someone asks for a shot at a title backstage and then they just get it without any justification. Then you've got the wrestlers who drift from feud to feud with no real progression. Why are so many people on this roster just treading water? And that ties into another big problem, WWE's complete failure to elevate new stars, and of course their over-reliance on part-time legends. They're constantly prioritising short-term buzz over long-term star creation. Whenever someone gets momentum, WWE hesitates and then they go back to where they started. I bring him up all the time, but LA Knight is a great example of that. They lean on returning names like Lesnar and AJ Lee. Roman Reigns constantly coming back and then disappearing again. When these veterans return, they should be putting over newer talent, but most of the time they don't. I mean, Cena putting over Gunther was an exception, but they even managed to mess that up. But the real damage is in how WWE actively killed the momentum of new stars getting over naturally. Look at Bron Breakker, he's become a symbol of this stop-start-push problem that they've got going on right now. Despite strong performances, he repeatedly ended up in a subordinate role, and the NXT pipeline has been constantly mishandled. Fraxium were called up and then quickly vanished. Even successful call-ups like Stephanie Vaquer weren't given any compelling stories to work with. They should be elevating these young guys into the mid-card and beyond. Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, Obafemi, these guys have got charisma coming out of their collective asses. One of the problems is how few matches there are on premium live events these days. They need to expand these cards to have 7 or 8 matches to get more of these young guys on there and get them over. And they need to develop more feuds that don't just revolve around titles and have an actual storyline behind them. Another big problem is how poorly booked the tag team division has been. It's felt like an afterthought rather than a foundational part of the product. Throughout 2025, the men's tag team division has been seriously neglected. So many teams have just disappeared, while other teams have been thrown together randomly, like AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. But the most frustrating part was how the champions barely defended the titles. Finn Balor and JD went approximately 101 days without defending the Raw Tag Team Championships, and when it came to building feuds, WWE relied on the same tired formula. Teams simply approached management and asked for a match. The New Day earned a title shot just by asking for one. I think at this point they'd be better to eliminate the brand-specific men's titles and merge them together. And if WWE doesn't want to invest creatively in the tag team division, Just get rid of it. Why bother with it if it doesn't mean anything? It's a waste of time. The Women's United States title is another one. To me, it's one of the worst booked belts in the company. I guarantee there are casual fans out there who couldn't name the current Women's United States champion. Zelina Vega's reign was just there, with no meaningful character growth. Julia's reign was the most confusing. That included unclear storytelling like the unexplained involvement of Kiana James as her agent, and then it ended out of nowhere with no explanation. A big problem in the women's division is that all the feuds revolve around the titles. Can't they come up with any actual storylines for them? Or am I just expecting too much from modern day WWE? Now let's look at the state of SmackDown, because to be honest, it's been difficult to sit through. The show recorded some of its lowest viewership numbers in 2025. The October 31st episode did just 933,000 viewers, the lowest in the show's entire run. Not too long ago, we'd make fun of AEW if it didn't hit 1 million viewers, and now SmackDown is in exactly the same place. Live attendance has also dropped significantly, and with these ticket prices, it's no damn surprise. Looking back, it was the end of the Bloodline saga that left a vacuum on the show that was never filled. But why wasn't it filled? Why didn't the so-called creative team come up with something to replace it, like they would on a regular TV show? I watched that piece of trash unreal, and there's about 15 people sitting around that table. Are you telling me that none of these guys have got an idea of how to write a wrestling show properly? Those very same writers failed to establish credible challenges for Cody Rhodes after Reigns, Cena and LA Knight all switched brands. Drew McIntyre was the strongest remaining heel, but he lost to Cody at WrestlePalooza in a finish that ruined his credibility. Jacob Fatu vanished from television for over a month despite getting strong reactions. SmackDown is now going back to being a 3-hour show, which is a huge mistake and only going to make things worse. We know that 3-hour shows are painfully slow and a chore to watch. Back in the day, SmackDown was unwatchable at times. Of course, a longer show means more promotional opportunities for WWE, which is another big problem with the presentation of their product in 2025. All of their shows feel sanitized and like a corporate product designed to maximize profit. I understand that all businesses are set up to extract the maximum amount of money possible, but it never felt this corporate and overproduced and soulless. Honestly, WWE shows are almost unwatchable at this point because everything is visually overwhelmed by corporate branding. Let's talk about the ticket prices, and this is where WWE's corporate greed becomes impossible to ignore. Since TKO took over ownership, the cost of tickets has gone through the roof, and it's pricing out normal families from attending shows. A WWE event used to be something the average family could afford, but not anymore. Tickets for WrestleMania 42 were starting at $600 on Ticketmaster. That used to be the price for a front row seat. When families can't afford to bring their kids to shows, you're not just losing ticket sales now, you're losing future investment in the product. The reason so many adult fans exist is because they were fans when they were young and were taken to shows by their parents. And something else I'd like to see and hear less of is Triple H himself. He has got nothing to feel proud of right now, not with the state of this product. The fans made their feelings known towards him at the end of the Cena match, and we are sick of the sight of him. Triple H spent years convincing us that he was the guy who could turn this around, and for a while we believed him. But 2025 proved that he's struggling with the same issues Vince had, and in some cases he's actually making things worse. And look, we can't blame him for everything. WWE's owned by a corporate machine these days, which tells me that nothing is going to change in 2026. Things are only going to get worse.